Hi, good evening. Welcome to my session on preventing blackouts and diving safely. Sorry?
Ask them to share the videos.
Yeah, if you would be kind enough to share the videos when we finished, I'd appreciate that. So, I'm going to get cracking now and see how many people are joining. I can't see anybody joined. Has anybody joined yet? Here we go. 2 joined. Okay, good. Fefe Rossi, hi Fefe, and Russell Ebnett. Nice to see you joining us. It's early days yet, so you'll have to excuse me. I'm a pretty good diver, but I'm not very good at the IT systems. So we'll carry on and see where we go from there. A couple more joining. Russell Ebnett has joined. And 6, we're getting some momentum now. Good. Just give it a couple of minutes for a few more people to join. Samir, nice to talk to you, nice to see you. Martin, Putra Harum, apa kabar? George Alberto Marquez, nice to see you on here. Jose, Karim, Ahmed, freediver, good friend of mine is here. Jasmine, my wife, of course, is here assisting me. So, just a couple more minutes and then we'll see where we go from here. Just let me know that you can hear me when I'm talking.
I can hear you.
Joy, Claudio, hi there. Joy Lee, Gakomo, Naja, hi there. Thanks for joining. So there's quite a delay then, right?
It's delay, of course.
Okay.
Especially it's long distance to Philippines and
So,
Indonesia.
just to explain what's going on here, recently we've had some issues in the Philippines in particular, where we very, very sadly lost some of our friends who are spear diving in those areas, and it's been established really the reason we've lost them is because they're not able to get any professional training, and that's why I'm here. I'm a spearfishing or spear dive instructor with ISA, and somebody's asking me questions now. And I'm quite happy to share my experience. I've been diving altogether for some 50 years now, and at the end of the day, if I can help somebody by giving that information free of charge, of course, then I'm quite happy to do so. We're still getting people joining, so can somebody tell me that you can hear me? That's the important thing. Hi Liam. So we've got people joining us from Philippines, Indonesia, Greece, all sorts of different places. Lian Sarabut are joining us here, and of course I can speak Indonesian as well. So selamat malam, aku harap kamu bisa dengar saya. Juga my wife is Filipino, and obviously she speaks Tagalog. So I just need to know that you can hear me, because nobody's told me you can hear me talking yet. Nothing.
Loud and clear, she said.
Oh, good. Loud and clear. Who said that?
Makoy Baro.
Michael Boro, thank you very much. You can hear me loud and clear. Okay. So, let's get going.
Abu Muhammad Ghani.
Abu Muhammad Ghani, apa kabar? Inshallah, salam semua baik-baik.
Corey is watching.
Corey Law, my good friend Corey. Hi, mate. How are you doing? How's Qatar treating you? Okay, so I'm going to kick off now. We obviously got quite a few people joined, on and off. It's long distance, effectively. So, you know, there's a delay, and I'm talking from Abu Dhabi. We've got people joined from Indonesia, from Malaysia, from Thailand, from the Philippines, from Greece, from Italy, from Brazil, believe it or not. All over the place we've got people joining us. Okay, so again, I'm just going to explain the reason why I'm doing this. Recently, in particular in the Philippines and in Southeast Asia, we've lost quite a few people. We've lost a few people spearfishing, and it's been deemed because they haven't had any training. But my job is to give people training and to help people survive this wonderful and dangerous sport of ours. Okay, so if we can sort of kick off now, we're getting quite a few people coming on. You'll have to excuse me, I'm not a bad diver, but I'm not very good at IT, so, you know, that's the way it is. Anyway, first thing, what is a blackout? And I get all sorts of answers when I ask this question to my students. The very simple answer is this: a blackout is a protection system to help keep the remaining oxygen for the vital organs. So if we do have a blackout, the body effectively shuts down and the remaining low amount of oxygen is sent to the vital organs. And that's obviously important. That's why when you look at some blackout victims who've recovered, you see they've got white faces, white arms, white legs, white feet, the cyanosis in their lips and on their face. You can see that there's been a problem, and that's because the body has automatically, naturally rediverted that effective and vital oxygen to the vital organs in our body. We particularly tend to focus on what we call deep water blackouts, and that's because that's what we as spearos tend to suffer from. There's no real need for people to have blackouts. There's no real need as long as they follow a few very simple guidelines. And if you do that, believe me, this is one of the safest sports you could ever get involved in. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the causes of blackouts. Well, why do we get blackouts? What happens? What causes us to get the blackout? One of the main things is the overextension of your bottom time. When your time's up, you need to come up. Don't take it any longer. Meaning, if you've dived before for a minute, don't try and dive for 2. If you've dived for 30 seconds, don't try and dive for a minute. Take your time, build up your CO2 resistance, build up your skill, and take it easily and slowly. It's a much safer way of diving. Okay, so try not to dive beyond your abilities and in time and in depths. Another reason people have blackouts is because they get stuck, they get tangled. You might find that you'll see a lot of fishing lines down there. You see a lot of nets down there. If you get stuck on one of those, chances of you coming up, in particular if you don't have a sharp knife, is very, very difficult. So we need to ensure that we avoid anything that we may get stuck on. Okay, so dodip, bakabar. So what we have to ensure is that if we do see anything that may entangle us, we avoid them. One thing that I see a lot of, and I know most of you have done this, you've gone down for 10 meters, you've stayed on the bottom in the ambush system or sat in the ambush design, laid on the bottom looking around for fish, nothing's around. You might do a bit of dusting, you might do a bit of grunting, still nothing around. It's time for you to come up. You can feel your contractions have gone and it's time to come up. So you start making your way up from 10 meters. At 5 meters, you look to your left and there's that huge hammer or grouper or whatever it is. Your dream fish is right down there to your left. Most of us would be tempted to dive straight away again, go back down, shoot it and bring it up for dinner. That's the worst thing you could do. Seriously, if you do see that happen, you need to ignore it. You need to go back to this, carry on ascending to the surface, go through your recovery protocol, get your breath back, keep looking in the water, keep your eye on the fish. It's not going to go too far away. Keep watching it. Make sure that you're ready before you go down again. How long do we stay on the surface? If we've been diving for 30 seconds, I would recommend a minute 30 to 2 minutes, 3 to 4 times your dive depth. What's the other reason for blackouts? Panicking. I've seen people panicking. I've seen people, you must have all seen it, bicycle kick, climbing a ladder, trying to get out, trying to get away from the water. These are the things that we look out for as instructors. So how do we stop this happening? How do we prevent people getting blackouts? It's very simple, really. You dive within your limits. Don't overextend it. No fish or gear is worth your life. You might say, like I know a lot of our friends in the Philippines and Indonesia are saying, I'm trying to feed my family. We applaud that. It's incredible that you're taking these risks to feed your family. But no fish is worth your life or your gear. Ask your family before you dive. Should I take a risk to get that big fish? Should I really risk my life to get you a nice meal? The answer is obviously going to be never do that. Always, always err on the side of safety. Another thing that we notice a lot of in the Southeast Asia is diving alone. Never, ever, ever dive alone. I'm very lucky. My wife's a spearer as well, and she's always with me. If not, I've got my students with me, and I never, ever, ever in my life have dived alone. I promise you that. Never happened. You should always have a buddy with you. Now, it's okay having a buddy, but how do you know if he's going to be able to save you? You need to talk to your buddy before you dive. You need to stay in the water, have a chat with him. How long do you expect to dive? How deep do you expect to dive? Which area are you going to? If he says he's going to dive for 30 seconds, a minute later he's still not up, you know there's a problem. If he says I'm going to go to 5 meters and the visibility is 10 meters and you can't see him, you know there's a problem. Something's going on. You need to ensure that you and your buddy are talking to each other before you go down. It's just common sense. I understand, of course, that a lot of people are diving to feed their families. And we know that is very difficult these days. We know since COVID, a lot of people have lost a lot of their income. And we understand that, of course. But ask your family, should I take that risk? The answer is always going to be no. Come back, Dad. Okay? If you do come across hazards, you have to deal with them calmly and effectively. It's all right saying that, I know. If you get stuck under a net or under a line, you can't reach your knife or something, then you're going to start effectively panicking a little bit. What you try to do with your mind is slow it down. Take it easy. Take your knife, cut the hazard, and make your way up to the surface. Deal with those hazards calmly and effectively. This really is a lazy man's sport. Excuse me. If you're the type of guy who wants to go adrenaline hunting, dive, this isn't your sport, believe me. This sport is a lazy man's sport. When I do my duck dive, I do everything as slowly and as silently as possible. And I go down slowly. And I hold my gun close to my body. And I look like I'm asleep. I'm just dropping. When I get to where the target fish are, I'll still stay where I am, just quietly, looking out the side of my eye, see the fish I want to shoot, bring out my gun and shoot. That's the way the good spearos ensure that they're going to survive. Okay. Now then, what are the signs of low oxygen? What do you see from your buddy if he's going to have a problem? The first thing you might see, he starts blowing bubbles. Now, what do we say? What do we always say to each other when we teach our students? Never, ever blow bubbles. And I always say to them, go down and come up with whatever you had. The air in your body, you should never release any air. Okay. If you see your buddy blowing bubbles, there's a problem, and you can go and help him. If you see your buddy letting his prize gun go, you can see I've got some beautiful guns up there. All my guns are rifle or Rob Allen guns, and they're my dream guns. They're my pride and joy. When I bought Jasmine, my wife, her first rifle, she wanted to kick me out of bed and sleep with a gun, which is the way we think, right? Okay. So, if you see somebody letting his gun go when he's ascending, again, you know there's a problem. You've got to go to him and help him. Okay. If you see that panicked and uncontrolled ascent, this again, if you see him doing this, trying to get up and kicking like a bicycle and just looking up and all the things that we never do, you know there's a problem. You've got to go down and help the guy. You can see it in his face, the white face, the cyanosis, all the rest of the stuff that you would expect to see. What would we experience if we were about to have a blackout? Okay, one of the things you might experience is tunnel vision. You might only see straight ahead. You might not see what's going on right or left of you. If you get that sensation, be aware that you may be having a blackout, or at least an LMC, loss of motor control, coming on, the samba. You might get pins and needles in your hands and feet. You might feel that there's no blood going to your hands and feet. That's obviously because the blood's being diverted, or the oxygen, is diverted via the blood into your vital organs. You might forget what's just happened. You might think, have I just dived? Did I shoot a fish? Have I got any fish to put on the stringer? Those things start to happen because you've got lack of oxygen. You might see your buddy or you might start laughing and joking, and you might start laughing at, yeah, it's wonderful, I'm enjoying this. You might also see your buddy or yourself, you might start crying. Sometimes excessive happiness and sadness is a preempt of lack of oxygen. Okay, so basically, what do you do when it's your turn to dive? First of all, if you've got your buddy with you, if you're going any deeper than 10, I would always say have a buddy. And really, whenever you dive any depth, even in the swimming pool, you should have a buddy, because you know that it can happen at any time. So, first thing you need to do when you've got your buddy and you've briefed him, you've had a chat about it, you've talked about it, you have to wait until it's your turn to dive. So it's your turn to dive. Tell him, I'm going down, I'm going to go to 7 meters, I'm going to go for that ammo down there, I'll be looking at that, I'll probably be down for a minute maximum, and then he says, okay, off you go. Nice duck dive, quiet, down you go, do your thing.
From Italy, Rita
So
Alba.
always tell him that, always tell him that you're about to dive, so he knows when you're going. When he is down there, keep your eye on him, watch him. Make sure you're watching him. Even if the visibility is bad and you can't really see him, watch where he's going, watch the line, watch where he is. Okay. Whilst he's down there, don't swim away and look at something else. You need to stay down. Okay, you need to ensure that he's down there and you're watching him. You need to stay in the same place where he expects you to be when he comes up. So when he's down, don't go swimming away looking for something else. You need to watch him from the surface when he duck dives. Keep your eye on him going down. Watch him whilst he's hunting. Watch him when he comes back up again. And when he hits the surface, keep watching him for at least 30 seconds. We can have blackouts after we surface. It's not the risk, the danger hasn't gone when you surface. So when he comes up, keep your eye on him for at least 30 seconds so you know what's going on. Okay, so I know that we've heard that some of the guys have died and been in trouble because they've dived too deep. And I think that we need to really start thinking about our safety. What do we do to make sure that we're safe when we're diving? When I teach my students, I teach all of them to get a float. And I'll show you what I mean by float. I have a float, it's on the surface, It's attached to a float line that goes down to my gun, and it's attached to my gun in turn. So when I dive, I can take my guns on the float line. If it's a big fish, I can shoot it and let go. The float's on the surface, the fish is attached to the float, the float's attached to the gun and the shooting line, and it's all held up. We're not going to lose anything. If you're diving with a reel, and you're going down deep, so 20 meters for example, and you shoot a fish and you've got 25, 30 meters of line, and he goes deep, you've got two options. You either hold on and hope that he won't empty the reel and make your way to the surface, or you go down and try and get hold of the fish. Fish are not stupid. They will go down and wrap themselves around anything they can to stop you pulling them up. If you've got a float and a float line attached to your gun, even if it's got a reel, you can let go of your gun, go up to the surface, get yourself together, get yourself sorted out. If it's a big fish, ask your buddy to have a dive down and put a second shot in. Just take it easy. I'll show you what I mean by float. I've just bought some brand new ones today for some of my students, so I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so this is the float that I've bought for my student today. It's a Rob Allen 7-litre float. It's weighted. We've attached the fish stringer onto the float and the 10-metre floating line. That 10-metre float line effectively goes down to the gun and is attached to the gun. Attached to the gun like this. So remember, I've got this on the surface, floating. This is my home, by the way. This is my safety. Okay? That is attached by a float line all the way down to my gun, which is connected with a carabiner or a clip or a shark clip. Once I've shot that fish, I can let go of that gun, make my way up to the surface and go through my recovery. Okay? This is the safest way. Now you might say, well, I can't afford a float. These Rob Allen floats are about, I don't know, $100 each or something. A lot of money in some places, right? You don't need to use a professional float. Get the bottom on. Water bottle. You don't actually physically need to use a professional float. There's an easier way and cheaper way of doing it that everybody can afford. And I've seen some of my divers here using this amazing float. There you go. Some of these have got handles in. You can block the end off when it's empty, clip your float line into the handle, and there's a perfect float. That's not going to go anywhere. Okay? So you can make it as simple and as cheap as you want to make it. It doesn't have to be expensive. From here you would put a line down attached to your gun. I have 10 meters, I've got another 20 meters in my bag in case I need to go deeper. But it's easy enough to just clip it on. Sometimes it gets on your nerves. I know it does. It gets on everybody's nerves when you and your buddy get tangled with each other's float lines. But I'll tell you what, sooner be a little bit upset for a minute rather than to die. Okay, so great way of staying safe. Use a float and a float line. As soon as you've shot that fish, let go of your gun. Make your way to the top. I know sometimes if it's shallow you want to go down, push the spear into the fish and twist it so the flopper's open. But when you do that, you then need to let go and make your way to the surface. If it's not too deep and you can take the fish with you, fair enough. But if it is deep and you need to get that breath in, you've got your contractions coming, get up, get to the top, go through your recovery, get yourself ready, and then go back down and finish the fish and bring it back up safely. Okay, so there's a couple of simple things. Now, couple of questions people have asked me before. For example, what happens if your spear gets stuck in the fish and in the rocks or coral? I have a special way of getting away from this problem, and I'll show you what it is. Where's my knife? Where's my knife, mate? Okay, so a lot of knives that we buy these days have got this weird notch on. And get that little spear. And of course, it's not for opening beer bottles. I'm sure Corey's an expert at this, for opening this bottle of beer, but it's not for that. I'll show you actually what this is for, and it's a really, really good tip if you get your fish stuck with your blade, stuck into your spear and into the rock. So let's imagine, here's your spear, it's gone through the fish and it's stuck in the coral or the rocks underneath and you can't get it out. If you keep twisting and pulling and bending it, you're going to bend the spear, and we all know after you bend the spear you might as well throw it away, it's no good. Okay, so if you just have a look here on this spear, you'll see somewhere, you'll see the loading notch. That's the piece that goes into the trigger assembly to load your spear. Now, assume that's stuck in the rocks like this, and on this knife you've got that notch. A lot of knives have this. So what you need to do is, whilst it's still stuck in the rocks, you get your knife and you put it inside that notch, the loading notch in the spear. That means you can then twist it, you can pull it, you can turn it, you can do whatever you want to bring that spear out of the rocks without damaging it. That's a very simple tip that I picked up from Rife, actually, a great bit of equipment. That I think probably most of you know you've got it, but you didn't realize what it's for. It's helped me save a lot of money by getting my spears out of the notches, out of the rocks, sorry. Okay, so one next thing I want to talk about, how much weight should you use on your belt? Okay, here's my dive belt that I'm using tomorrow. Okay, my dive belt that I'm using tomorrow is here, and it's got 3 kilos on this belt. Okay, the reason it's got 3 kilos is because I'm wearing a rash guard tomorrow, which is only a 1/2 mil, because it's quite warm here still in the UAE. So what we're going to do is we're going to explain to you the calculation for how much weight you should use. And I was really sad to hear that somebody we lost that we know personally here in the UAE, one of the guys was lost primarily because he had too much weight. All the time I hear people saying, oh, I need to put more weight because I can't get down. So here's the calculation. For an average male diver of say 75 kilos, less than me of course, you need to start with 2 kilos. 2 kilos of weight is sufficient, or 2.5 kilos is sufficient for a 75 kilo diver with no wetsuit. Okay, so tomorrow I'm wearing a 1/2 mil rash guard when I dive. So I've got 3 kilos on here, remember? So 2.5 kilos for the base, and another 0.5 kilos added to the belt to give me 3 kilos. So I'm effectively negatively buoyant. Where should you be buoyant? Where is your buoyancy? Why do we need this 3 kilos? The reason is this. If you do have a blackout and you're down at 10 meters, for example, and your buddy's not around or he's not paying attention, if you have a blackout, if you're correctly weighted, you should automatically come to the surface without any oxygen in your body. So we're negatively weighted. So what we're going to, negatively buoyant. So what we're going to, positively buoyant, sorry. So what we're going to do when we do our testing is, we put the weights on our belt, we put the mask on, get everything ready, and we fully exhale. Then we let our body drop in the water, and what will happen if you're correctly weighted is you will stop descending and then automatically start to ascend. And if you're at the correct weight, your mask should be mid-level with the surface of the water. That means you're correct. Now, there are different reasons for being buoyant at different levels. For example, pelagic fishing. If you're fishing at 5 meters for pelagics, then of course it's very, very different. And what you need to be is buoyant at the level that you're hunting. So when you come up from from having exhaled and come back up again, if your body comes straight out of the water and your head's out of the water, it means you don't have enough weight. If your body doesn't come up and it's still underwater, it means you've got too much weight. So you start to release. And you can adjust this as and when you need to make sure that you're safe. Too many people think they put a lot of weight on to get down and stay down. Big mistake, seriously. It's a huge mistake, and it's a killer. It really is a killer. If you've got too much weight and you get stuck, for example, you might get caught on a fishing line or on a net, or even I was caught once in a cave in a coral. I was inside looking for a fish. My wetsuit got caught on the coral, and the wetsuit snagged onto the inside of the cave where I was trying to get the fish. Thankfully, I had my knife, and I was able to cut my wetsuit away and come out. Going on to the knife now. Is it a good idea to have a knife? Of course it is. What's the main function of this knife? A knife's main function is for safety. Its main function is not for killing fish quickly or bleeding fish. This is about being safe. So if you do go down and you have that problem and you need to cut yourself away, your knife is available, and it has to be sharp. What's the point of having a knife if it's not sharp? Most of them have 2 edges. This one you'll see has got a sharp straight edge and a serrated edge. We can actually get through metal and coral and rocks with this. Actually, I've actually done that before. It's very important to have a sharp knife. Where would you put your knife? I see lots of people like, oh man, James Bond, stick it on here, man, it's really cool. Put it on my leg. Yeah. No. You need to have your belt, your knife on your belt where you can reach it with both hands. And here's mine. On the front of my weight belt, I can reach that with both hands. People say, oh, well, I like to use it on my arm. Great, put it on your arm. Then you've got it on here, and this arm gets stuck. Okay, now, how are you going to get it out? It's almost impossible to get that knife out of its holster. Or in your leg. I know on your leg, one of my students told me that his friend was a professional spearer in Brazil. And he listened to what I said at one of the theory lectures, telling him to put it on his belt where it's accessible with both hands. This guy was a pro, shooting massive wahoos and all sorts of things. And he always had it on the inside of his leg. And one day, 2 weeks after I told my student Gustavo to make sure it was on his belt, he hit a huge wahoo. And that wahoo went around him, many times, fighting for its life, and locked his legs together. Now, he could not get his hand inside the knots on his legs to get hold of his knife. Luckily, he listened to what I told Gustavo and had it on his belt. He was able to take the second knife from his belt and cut himself free. Simple, right? But a lot of people don't think about it. It's just being sensible. You don't need to have an expensive knife like this. I mean, look, it's a nice knife. It's brand new, actually, because I lost mine. It's a brand new knife, and it's a beautiful knife. It's Teflon coated. It doesn't need to be like that. I mean, you could have any knife you want as long as you can get access to it with both of your hands. That's the important thing. Don't make it difficult. Hi Moez, nice to see you, my friend. You can see this, Moez. I bought this today in your shop. Okay, so the point is, have your knife where you can reach it.
I share your video to both. Terus agak mainan spill.
Okay, good. So, we've covered waiting, we've covered blackouts. Let's talk about breathing. One of the most important things about being a good spear diver is being able to breathe properly and to do a correct breathe up. If you'll notice when people start spearfishing, they'll grab a gun, jump in the sea and go down. Not a good thing. Not a good thing at all. What we teach our students is this. It's very, very important. At the bottom of your lungs are some organisms called alveoli. Those tiny little organisms at the bottom of your lungs are there to do what's called a chemical transfer of the oxygen into your bloodstream. So it goes from air into liquid bloodstream and it goes around your body, keeping you alive. Okay? So the way to ensure that the alveoli are reached first is to do what's called an abdominal breathing. We've forgotten how to breathe. If you watch a baby when it's laid down, you'll see the baby's stomach's moving when they breathe. Not the chest. The chest's not moving at all. Because when we're born, we know how to breathe and we use diaphragm breathing. The diaphragm's this area here underneath your rib cage. There's a diaphragm there. So what we need to do to ensure that we feed the alveoli to enable our blood to be infused with oxygen to go around our body is we need to fill the bottom third of our lungs first. And the way we do that is by a proper breathe up. And the way we do it is like, if you watch me from the side, my stomach's big enough so you're not going to miss it. So I'm putting my hand now on my diaphragm. My first inhale as an abdominal breather is, what happens is my chest stays the same and my stomach goes out. So what I do first of all is I pull my stomach in and then I breathe in as follows. You saw my stomach coming out. You're not going to miss that, right? You saw my stomach coming out. Then from there I go up to the lungs and I do a lung breathe up. And my diaphragm has gone down to open my my lung cavity to enable me to get more in to my lungs. When that part's finished, I pull back my shoulders, lift up my neck, breathe in again, or continue to breathe, pause for a second and dive. Now, this isn't in 3 sections, this is in 1, and it has to be done together. So if you watch me do it now, I'll just move that slightly. You watch me do it now. So I start off with the breathing in, pulling my stomach in. Okay, there's my abdominal. So here we go, right? Jasmine's just moving things. Okay, so pull my stomach in, full breathe up as follows. Pause for a second and dive. Now, that's the last breath, okay? That's how you fill your lungs with oxygen, ensuring that the bottom portion of your lungs is filled first so the chemical reaction can happen. Before we get to that final breath, that's the final, I've gone backwards really, that's the final breath before we dive. Once we come up from a dive, we do what's called the recovery breath. When we come up from a dive, people think they're coming up because they need to breathe. It's not. It's because you need to exhale that poisonous CO2. So when we come up from a dive, first thing we do is we exhale. So we do like this, and we say this word, pah. If we say that, and all my students know this, they pah, and then they breathe in for a second or two, and then they push that oxygen down into their lungs, keeping their lungs partially inflated. Breathe in again. Push that oxygen down into your lungs, and then full exhale. You've just finished your dive, you've come up, and you're there ready. Now you've just got rid of the CO2. What you need to do now is not dive straight away. What you need to do now is you need to. Somebody's asking for the link. What you need to do now is you need to. I'm getting confused. I shouldn't be looking at that. Okay. So, right. What we need to do now is we need to do what we call the 4 R's. The next R, that was the recovery. The next R is the the rebalance. We need to rebalance our respiratory system, slow down our heartbeat, make sure we're full of CO2 and O2 and everything goes back to normal. And we do that over 60 to 90 seconds while relaxing on the surface, maybe holding onto your float. You're probably doing things. You're probably putting your fish on the stringer. You're probably getting your gun reloaded. Just take it easy. Just chill. Nice and steady when you're doing these things. Once you've gone through that 60 to 90 seconds, you need to move on to the next stage, or the third hour, if you like. And we've done the, what we need to do now is the refresh. Refresh. We need to refresh our respiratory system. We need to also slow down our heartbeat. You know you can hear your heartbeat bursting when you're coming up to the surface. We need that all to slow down as much as possible. So what we tend to do, what we teach our students to do, is we teach them to do a 2 second, or it can be 2 to 3 second, diaphragm inhale, hold for a second, and then breathe out slowly for 6 seconds. And it, let me just put that down. It goes like this. So I'm holding onto my diaphragm so you can see. So I'm going to do 2 second inhale, pushing my stomach out again. So hold for a second, and then slowly exhale for 6 seconds. Hold for a second. Again, in for 2. Hold for a second. Slowly exhale for 6. Excuse me. Again, hold for a second. In for 2. Hold for a second. Exhale for 6. Okay. What's happened now is you've slowed your heartbeat down. You've refreshed your body with fresh O2 and CO2. And you're ready for that final breath that we taught at the beginning, which was, if you recall, stomach in, abdominal breathe in, hold for a second and dive. Okay, so that, excuse me, that's basically how we prepare from the dive up to the recovery system, up to the rebalancing, and then refresh, and the last one is the reload, filling that oxygen into your lungs as much as possible. Okay, so that's basically the best way to breathe up. Now, and I've said this so many times to all of my students, if I can give you one piece of advice that will help you become a better spear diver, free diver, and stay alive and get more fish, it's slow down. Slow everything down. Show yourself that you don't need to rush. Take it nice and easy. When I say slow down, I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about the recovery breath. I'm talking about the breathe up. I'm talking about even your duck dive, your finning. Keep it slow. You'll notice if you do dynamic in a swimming pool, when everybody starts, they're going nice and slowly, 25 meters easy. You turn on the 25 meters, coming back to finish your 50 meters. When you get to 40, they want to breathe. So they start going faster and faster and faster. And what does that do, of course? It uses more oxygen. So you start to panic and you go on, and everything gets a problem. So again, slow everything you can down. Do your duck dive slowly. Go down slowly. Don't make a noise. Take it nice and steady. Just relax as much as you can. Lazy man sports. The worst thing that you can suffer from in this sport is adrenaline. If you're on the surface, looking around, see that massive hammer, it's like 6 kilo hammer underneath you, looking up at you, smiling at you. The worst thing you can do is, hey, I'm going to get a fish. Yes! Quick dive. Go to shoot the fish. It's too deep. You've got to come back because your adrenaline's bursting and your excitement's built. Two things are bad. Adrenaline is the enemy of spearfishing. Slow it down. You don't need to go quick. Slow everything. Watch. At the moment in Rattan, you can see that the freedive champions are on there. They're not going quick. Watch the way they go so slowly when they're finning. Watch them with the monofin. Slowly, 2 or 3 kicks only, and they're falling down to 120, 130 meters. Steady, steady. Nobody's doing this. Nobody's, hey, there's a fish, there's a fish, there's a fish. Doesn't work. Slow it all down. And I know some of my students are on here, and I've been very, very happy to see them following these things that I teach them. And when we go through our theory sessions with our students, I always say this to them. You will see me or hear me say things on here that seem pointless and useless. But believe me, they will come back and you'll say so many times when you're spearfishing, that's why Will said go slow. That's why Will said have a float line. That's why he said have a float. That's why he said have a sharp knife. All of these things come back to you when you're actually spearfishing and enjoying what you do. What I'm really concerned about is the way that people are struggling to stay alive when spearfishing, and there's absolutely no need for it. There is no need for it. I heard recently one guy had reloaded his gun at 25 meters. Guys, come on. Go back up. Take your time. Go back down and shoot it. No fish is worth your life, man. No fish is worth your gear. You've just got to chill out. Take it easy. Dive slowly. Dive nice and carefully. Go around like a fish. Fish are not running around like crazy. They're just taking it easy. Be like a fish. Chill. Just take it nice and steadily. Go forward, go up, go down. Make sure you do your pre-equalize before you dive, obviously, on the surface. Pre-equalize, snorkel out. I can't emphasize enough that wearing a snorkel in your mouth when you're spearfishing is not a good thing. I know some people are saying that it might be a good idea, but personally, I always advise not to. You don't want a line, a tube that water can go into your mouth when you're unconscious. You don't want that to happen. You need to get rid of that bad habit as quickly as possible. So, to recap, try and get a float and a float line. Doesn't need to be expensive. You can get a water bottle. I've got some students got a couple of old oil cans.
Yeah, the yellow.
The yellow oil, plastic oil tins. They've tied them together. That's their float. What do you use for? You saw that stringer on there. We've got stringers here. You can go and buy a stringer. They're about, I don't know, $25 each. You don't need to do that. You can use a coat hanger. Yeah. Get a coat hanger, open it up, clip it round itself again, put your fish on there. You don't need to have expensive stuff. Knife. You can use any knife you want as long as it's sharp and it's accessible where you can get your hands on it. It's a case of be safe, slow down, and enjoy this sport. This is a fantastic sport. It's something that I've been enjoying for many, many years. It's not about gear. It's not about lack of gear. It's not about being an expert spearo. It's not. It's mostly about slowing down. Just take it easy. Don't go crazy jumping all around like a psycho trying to kill everything that moves. We always say in spearfishing, because we're not doing it for our family, we shoot what we eat, and that's all. I personally don't like cuttlefish. My wife loves it. She shoots it, I don't. Okay? We shoot what we eat. Another one what you might want to consider is if you've got limits in your country, don't catch the limit, but limit your catch. There's nothing more embarrassing, in my opinion, than somebody coming into the harbour with 100 amur on the deck. Seriously, how the hell they're going to eat them? Where are they going to put them? The freezer's going to be full with 2 of them. What are they going to do with it? It's ridiculous. We need to start thinking about the stocks of fish. If we're shooting everything in sight, we're going to get a bad name. We've already got a bad name. People seem to think we're stripping this fish of sea, the sea of fish. Ridiculous. average spearo will take 2 to 3 fish every trip. I'm going tomorrow from 2 p.m. until 10 p.m. We're going to have day and night dives. I guarantee you that the average number of fish on my boat will be 3 to 4. Because we can't eat anymore. We're not allowed to sell them here as recreational fishermen, so we don't. Jasmine just said, except Safi. What do you call them? Dangit. She will shoot as many dangit as she can get her hands on because they're plentiful.
Fish.
They're plentiful here, the rabbit
It's
fish.
yummy.
It's yummy, yeah, I know. Okay, so, just going back again. One thing you need to remember. Will said, slow down. You don't need to go quick. You just slow it down. Just take it easy. Enjoy the sport. Enjoy the living that you're making, if that's what you're doing it for. If it's because you're feeding your family, take my hat off to you. You have my deepest respect. And, you know, us sport spearfishers are lucky. If we don't want to shoot a fish, we don't. If you've got 6 kids and a wife and mother at home, and you see that big spangled emperor or whatever it is, you're going to shoot it, right?
That's enough.
It's enough. You don't need 20 fish. You don't need to go killing fish just for the sake of killing them. Do what you need to do because you want to do it and you have to do it.
But in Philippines, they shoot the big one to sell.
The problem that we're seeing is that in the Philippines, in particular, and Indonesia, since COVID, a lot of the fish in the shallow waters have gone. You know, everybody's spearfishing now. There's thousands of people out there making their own guns, jumping in without any training. And therefore, the shallow areas are devoid of fish. There's nothing there anymore. So these poor guys are having to go deeper to get that decent sized fish, or to get that decent number of fish to feed their families. And we respect that. Of course we do. Of course we respect you for doing that. But be safe. Before you go, say a little prayer. Before you go, talk to your family. Before you go, make sure your buddy's with you. And make sure your knife is sharp and you've got a float. And you come back home safe. Because the fish will still be there tomorrow. Just take it easy, guys. Okay. Another thing, one quickly, environment. Please, please, please keep our environment safe and clean. I always teach my students and they'll tell you, bring something in with you. Bring a bit of trash out of the sea. Take it out. Take a bottle top or take a piece of plastic or a tin can or a drinks bottle or something. Just stick it down your wetsuit. Just leave it there. Come on the boat, take it off. People will respect you more for that than flicking your cigarette over the side of the boat, because that can get stuck, and I've seen it in turtles' noses and kill them. Turtles don't have fingernails to get them things out. They get stuck and they can't get them out. They die because of that. Welcome Aaron from Porto Galeria. Okay, so just be careful. Think about what you're doing. Let's have a long life. Let's have a good experience with what we're doing, and let's be safe. I think that's about all I've got to say today. I've really enjoyed talking to you guys. You see, it's not scripted. None of my work is scripted. My theory is straight from here, from experience, because I've done it for many, many years and I know what I'm doing. The point is that nobody's paying me for this. I'm doing this out of my own time to help people stay safe and stay alive. So please respect my time and listen to what I'm telling you. I'm not trying to be clever or be, oh, look at me, I'm the instructor. No, I'm not. I just want to help you guys. I want to help you be safe. And if by listening to me, only one person doesn't have that blackout he was going to have because he listened to what I said to him, then I've done my job well. Okay? So, are we done? Is there any questions? I'll just leave it open a little bit for questions, and Jasmine will look for any questions that you might have.
Shout out your viewers, their names.
Well, they can all see the names, right?
Yeah, but you need to shout out their name.
Shout
Hi.
out. Okay, shout outs, right, okay then. So, hello to Moez, who's a very good friend of ours, works for Gulf Marine.
But
We had
he's
Julie
fine.
Rife popped on very briefly. Thank you very much for your support. You see I'm wearing your t-shirt, right? Okay. Gulf Marine been a really great supporter of Abu Dhabi Spearos, and we really appreciate them.
K. Dawood.
Omar Daoud, Omar, I'm buddy, new Spiro of ours, just started doing a great job. There's so many people on here that I could say thank you. You're very welcome from Bohol. Fernando, I look forward to coming to Bohol. We really, really want to come and spend some time with you guys. Ezra, bro, there's my friend.
Ezra? Who's that?
Okay, so we're looking forward to going to the Philippines and to Indonesia. I used to live in Indonesia.
Aaron,
My
Michael,
wife's from the
Angelo.
Philippines. Jovit Tabo. You're very, very welcome, Jovit. Jasmine's going to say hi. Come and say hello.
Hello!
This is my lovely wife, Jasmine. This is my princess. This is my
Hello,
assistant.
Aaron, Michael, Angelo. Salamat sa pag-invite mo sa mga kasama mo. Thank you for inviting them.
And to the Indonesian friends on there, terima kasih banyak untuk lihatan yang video. Saya perlu ke Indonesia lagi. Saya rindu sekali Indonesia. Masya Allah.
Mark Anthony,
Ada teman di sana sekarang.
Maestro Spiro.
Maestro Spiros. All of you guys. Ray as well has been a good supporter of ours. Last week we only had 5 viewers. This week we had up to 38, I think.
Silent Thunder, Bogoy.
The
Who's Bogoy?
Bogoy Silent Thunder. Who's that? I don't know. So, listen guys. Great to talk to you.
Rex Ford.
Rex has been a good supporter of ours and sent the message out to a
Abu
lot of
Muhammad
people.
Gani.
Abu Muhammad as well. Terima kasih banyak Pak.
Jabut
Great.
Wooden Spear Gun.
Jabut, keep making those beautiful wooden spear guns, Jabut. We really like the look of those. They're incredible.
Christopher Fermano.
Christopher Fermano, Joy Giacomo, Naji, terima kasih.
Jovit Tabutabo.
Hergi Quilop.
Jovit Tabutabo.
Jovit Tabatabo. What a lovely name.
Jade
Hergi
Insan.
Quiliopo, Jade Insan, Joel Giacomo Naji,
Axel de los Santos.
Axel de los Santos, I think one of our Brazilian or Mexican followers.
Hargi Kiliop.
Yeah, okay. So, I can go on forever. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much for all of your support and your information and spreading the word. We'll be back on again next week, same time,
We'll talk
to carry on.
about
And
Blackout recovery.
we'll talk particularly about the blackout recovery
To
system.
save them.
How to save them once they do blackout, okay? So again, thanks guys. Bravo. Terima kasih banyak.
Good night.
Good night. What?
Good night for them.
Filipino?
Magandang gabi.
Magandang gadi.
Gabi.
Magandang gabi. And good night, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. If anybody's videoed that, then please carry on with it.